Everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Molson Zia Missing, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Me and Molson Zia, double the expense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by Sweet Summits by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David Na on Amazon, keyword Sweet Summits Serena Wagner, and brought to you by the Sensei of Swing, Eric Diamond, with his latest All of Me, including I've Got a New Heartache, Strike a Match. You can catch new music coming soon, ericdiamondmusic.com. We're here with an amazing gentleman, award-winning speaker, author, and the host of the Grampion. And what is that? We'll answer that question in 1 minute. Began as a welder, testified for Congress, trained with various pilots from F-15s, F-16s to Typhoons, inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame. Found out more about that. He's a C-suite veteran, married 45 years, 5 kids, 16 grandkids, and founder builder of multiple businesses and merging to large corporations. Has a new book out explaining the essence of basically a true, what do you call it, character building, sharing stories of pivotal figures, influencing businesses, and more. The book is called Building Men, and he's also got a podcast called The Grampion. He's multidimensional, live, ladies and gentlemen, for Plus Studios. Somewhere in the Dakotas, you can perfectly imagine where he's at. I think he's got our shirt that will tell you. He's an award-winning speaker, author, and host of The Grampion, and the author of the book Building Men. Ladies and gentlemen, multi-talented Jim Tracy. Jim, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks for joining us today.
Wow, Mike, thanks for that amazing introduction. I'm kind of looking over my shoulder and seeing, is there somebody else behind me?
Well, you never know. You got some family members back there. You got, looks like something of a buffalo over there, and you got a group picture, and I can see this. I'm describing this to the audio audience over here, so just get you a good picture here. So we got all that.
Background.
You got that right, yes. And of course, you're an award-winning speaker, author, host of The Grampion. You began career as a welder, testified for Congress, trained in various pilots from F-15s, F-16s to Typhoons, inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame, C-suite veteran, married 45 years, 5 kids, 16 grandchildren, and the founder, builder of many businesses. And you have a new book explaining the essence of true character building, sharing stories of pivotal figures. The book is called Building Men, and you've got the Grampion podcast. And before we get started, what exactly is a Grampion? How'd you come up with that name?
Well, I really am humbled by it, actually. My grandson, Wes, and that was the subject of our first podcast. My grandson, Wes, I actually beat him in a card game out at the lake. And he looked at me and he said, "You're not a grandpa anymore." And I'm like, "What? Why would you say that, Wes?" And he said, "Well, you're not champion either." And I'm like, "I just beat you." He goes, "You are a Grampion." And it really stuck. And I'm not so vain that I would give myself that title, but I sure will take it from a grandson.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really original name. You've got a podcast on that. You help build men. And before I get to those, tell us how you first got started.
Wow, I was born and raised in Watertown, South Dakota, up in the northeast corner, little town in the northeast corner, and I was a welder. I was up working in Duluth on the Iron Range, and I was actually headed to Alaska to go weld in the pipeline. And I looked over, I was at a place, I looked over, there was this girl there in a gold jumpsuit, and man, all my plans were to head up to Alaska and weld. And I looked over and I thought, I'm going to have to marry her. And that was in August, and we got engaged in October and married the following April. And yeah, my father-in-law said, "Hey, Jim, I know you want to marry my daughter. Where are you going to school?" And I said, "Anywhere you want, sir." I don't think he wanted a welder for a son-in-law. So we went to the University of South Dakota, barely got through. And I always say I'm probably the lowest grade average student that ever graduated, but I made it through.
Mm-hmm. You certainly did. You've got a t-shirt that proudly says so. So
there you go.
Now let's go ahead and show it for everybody here.
All right. So the USD Coyotes, there we go. I've got a brother who's a professor there right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. And of course, they came to a province and they're doing well in football. Nearly knocked off South Dakota State, nearly knocked off North Dakota, and nearly knocked off North Dakota State. How do you like that?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. We like those interstate rivalries.
That's one of the best in business as well, too.
Yeah.
And of course, being South Dakota as well, too, you later testified before Congress. And you also trained pilots as well, F-15s, F-16s, Typhoons, and everything.
Yeah. When I was 47, well, actually, when I was a little kid, I got a little teeny taste, a little seed was planted in me about flying. And when I was 47, I went back in the springtime and I was with my dad and we saw a little plane going up overhead. And I said, "Hey, Dad, when was the last time you went up in a little plane like that?" And he said, "Oh, wow, that was way back when your grandpa was alive." And we went around and flew around and looked at all the different farms and all the different hunting spots and all the different places that we haunted and I'd give anything to do that again. Well, that was in the springtime and I came back in October. I rented a plane at Fargo Jet Center and flew down and gave him a ride. And so
Oh my
he was
gosh.
he was in his early 80s then, so it took me a little while, but from May till October, I got my pilot's license, and then that began to serve our business. And our grandkids were 5 hours away by car or 1 hour away by aircraft. And my wife got certainly got blessed out of that deal. So and then we started flying, and then we got a little Piper Saratoga and literally flew the wings off of it. I mean, or figuratively, I guess, flew the wings off it. And it's been a great adventure. And then we merged our companies together with larger companies and I had to start traveling more and COVID kicked in.
Mm.
I was leaving Bozeman, Montana to go home to Boise, and I was over the River of No Return wilderness area.
Oh.
And I thought, if my engine dies right now, it's true. There is no return. I'm going to make it a prophecy. And so everything was fine. I got home fine, but I told my wife about that experience, and I heard the phrase that every pilot longs to hear: "Honey, you need a twin engine."
That is original. I've never heard of it, but I really like that. You need a twin
Yeah.
engine.
There you go. So when I was 62, we started shopping and started learning to fly jets. And now I fly a twin engine Eclipse 500 and it gets me around the country doing what I got to do. But more importantly, it gets me home safe.
Nice, nice. And you talk about using that for business. And where are some of the businesses you're involved with? Flying the planes, you'll get to here, there, everything like that with your businesses you're doing.
Yeah, well, with the company that my son and I started in 2000, it was Legacy Telecommunications. We sold that into private equity, but during COVID, I had to be in Seattle, Spokane, Nampa, Bozeman, a lot of times Denver and New Braunfels, Texas,
Oh
once a
wow.
month, and I preferred that over masks and TSA. So it
Yes,
was it
yes,
was a
I
lot easier
understand.
to take.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. And I was thinking about the F-15s, the F-16s, and Typhoons. And I was thinking about the Tomcats as well, too. I think they had a Tomcat, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a
F-15 or
Navy
six.
craft, but that's not one that I mean, some of the guys might have flown one, but not that I know of. I was trained in jets by actual jet pilots, and so one of the beautiful things about that brotherhood is that they really want nothing more than for everybody to come home safe. And so when
Hmm.
you go in, you go all in, and they do. We've done training with upset recovery and everything that's bad that can happen on an airplane. We've simulated it or actually done most of it, and live to talk about it.
That is certainly indeed. You talked about some of the near misses and what to do in situations. Maybe think of the movie Sully, where he had that was 747 or 767, and he
Yeah,
made news where he had to make that unorthodox move of just gliding into the river, where it's like couldn't find a runway, couldn't find a place to land. It was a river, and believe it or not, nobody was killed or injured during that incident.
yeah, landing on the Hudson River, but he ran into the same thing that we would consider, really frequent, especially in the Midwest. I mean, I trained to fly in Alexandria, Minnesota for a while, and there were geese all over the place. Well, Sully hit a couple of geese, and they were ingested into the engine. And at 2,000 feet above ground level, he said, "Hey, we're going to put her down in the Hudson," and he saved everybody's life. American hero.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's like those geese or something. That's like similar to like, having a deer, hit a car if it doesn't get out of the way, or worse, a moose or a cow. It's like, once that geese get there, it's just like, pray to God your life is safe. So yeah.
Yeah. What they do actually a pretty good job of looking out for you as long as you're watching for the flocks.
You got that right, and I think that's great as well too. You got
Yeah.
inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame. We'll hear more about that with Jim Tracy, but first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960 or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon, paperback, and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has gone a great piece. An Evil Evan endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for It Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Mia Molson-Zia, double the suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David's Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote, his time as a shepherd growing up, and his complicated yet turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, hope, betrayal, repentance, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by Sensei of Swing, Eric Diamond, with his latest release, All of Me, featuring the title track, I've Got a New Heartache, Strike a Match, and more. Eric's a multi-award winning artist, inducted in numerous Hall of Fames. Entertainer Album of the Year will be releasing a new CD soon. Check it out, the amazing Eric Diamond, ericdiamondmusic.com. Follow on Facebook, YouTube, and all music platforms. Check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com. 40 podcast platforms, heard in 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device for great gift ideas. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop pockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check out the latest merchandise, books, and more. And Missing 2 coming soon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show on Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spreaker, iHeart, and wherever you get your podcasts. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM and PayPal. We heard the amazing award-winning speaker, author, host of the Grampion, Jim Tracy, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And you also, one of your awards as well, too, before being the Grampion, you got inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame. How do you like that?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And it really is humbling. I think any award that you receive from your peers is probably more genuine than most anything that I have experienced. And the fact of the matter is that we got engaged with the National Association of Tower Erectors, or NATE as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to put that into a thumbnail sketch, we tried to make life safer and work safer for tower climbers. And in doing so, we tended to always try just to choose and then do the right thing. One of those right things was to form the Tower Family Foundation. Excuse me. That Tower Family Foundation takes care of workers' families who've been killed or seriously injured on the job. And so there's this 15-day time where the system doesn't kick in and they still have to get food and they still have to probably travel a little bit if the worker was on the road, or hospital bills or rent or car payments or whatever it is. And so we cut them a check within 7 days of a real easy application and take care of our own. And then we formed the National Wireless Safety Alliance. And what that did is allowed us to add a credential, a portable worker credential, so that if you're a tower worker, you could say, hey, I'm a tower worker, and this is the card that proves it. It's not owned by my employer. It's owned and earned by me. And it just adds dignity to our workforce. So that and a lot of other things that were little things, I thought, and they kind of piled up. And one day I got a call. They said, man, you've just been inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame. And they had a big ceremony out in Washington, D.C., and it was and it was amazing. I was punching over my weight class, I can tell you that.
And it sounds to me that you got into the wireless business a lot early, and wireless back in the day was like the '70s age when it really kicked in. Compared to today, what was wireless? Like back then at that time compared to now.
Oh boy, it was a rodeo. I can remember times when production was more important than safety, and what we found out is that over time, over a short period of time, that could probably work a little bit, but over the long haul, it is more important that we take care of our people. And those are lessons that a lot of times are learned the hard way. But it was a lot of times it was a rodeo, and we went from 9 carriers to 7 carriers to 5 carriers, and now we're down to 3.5 or 4 carriers. And as the customer size grows, then our ability to deal with them. So that little association, it's headquartered out of Watertown, does a wonderful job of representing the voices of these small businesses all across America, and some large ones too. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, right. And of course, thank God for the wireless, right here in the palm of our hands too. So it's so
yeah.
amazing.
85% of all calls from 911 go through one of these. And if it's that critical in a public safety realm, then it's I mean it really is a utility that is above and beyond anything that we've ever experienced.
Certainly did as well too. This also transpiring into the other business you've been involved in. Y'all flying to and from your business using wireless and
Mhm.
everything, and you've been involved in some other ventures as well too. We'd like to hear more about.
Yeah, my son and I, and then also my wife and I have what we found out early is that we were better savers than we were spenders, and so we bought real estate, we bought commercial real estate, and then we improved it. So we found buildings that weren't very nice, and we spent a lot of elbow grease fixing them up, and then we just keep them and hold them and kind of once a month, you go to the mailbox, and it's a little bit like a birthday card. And we found that that was a business that really suited us. But my son was my partner in all these businesses, and one day when he was about 40, he said, "Dad, I'm about 13 years into a 5-year commitment, and uh, and so I'm going to go be a rancher." So I have a son who is actually a first generation rancher out in
Wow.
in Eastern Washington, and it's kind of unheard of because you got to have a lot of perseverance. He's got no agricultural background in our family,
Oh
and
wow.
so he's had some training by trauma, but he's a horseman. He's a real truly an old-fashioned cowboy, and I'm super proud of him.
And all health being in the Dakotas as well too. A lot of ranches, plenty.
Yep, yeah. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of folks who want to help you and help you learn as well, and so that kind of shortens that learning curve. And when you can learn from someone else, the tuition's a little cheaper.
That's true. That's true. Of course, there's
Yeah.
a thing with homeschooling. You have to deal with the expenses. Of course, you got online, everything else. And of course, the best experience of all is being on hand. You also learn from wherever too and whatever you do. So,
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure. And then
mhm.
also, I found out when I was working at I was chairman of the trade association for a number of years, and I was kind of thrust into the spotlight on a stage, and I found out that I not only did I enjoy it, but I had a gift for communicating with people, and that led to the speaking. And so when I go and I talk to crowds, and I try and share with them that if a little old dude from South Dakota can have a really big life, that you probably can too. And if you can go from welder to Hall of Fame, if I can do that, you can do it. And let's put up a motivational topic where they can actually grab a hold of it and get something actionable and put it to use. So I travel a bit around the country, speaking to groups and to corporations and helping corporations change their culture, and that's been very gratifying as well.
Certainly gratifying as well too. And you also help build men as well, not just from speaking, but also in a book. We're talking more about it. Jim Tracy. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Most Sincere Missing. Also brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David. Now on Amazon, Keyword, Sweet Song with Serena Wagner, and also brought to you by a Sensei Swing, Eric Diamond, featuring All of Me, I've Got a New Heartache, Strike a Match, ericdiamondmusic.com. Check it out on your favorite podcast platform and social media. We'll be back with multi-talented Jim Tracy of Building Men after this time out. We're back to the multi-talented Jim Tracy of Pride of Watertown, South Dakota, of Building Men here on the Mike Wagner Show. And of course, you speak to a lot of groups. You'll help build up men. You build up encouragement and everything. Now you do it in a book. And it's basically exploring the essence of true character building, sharing stories of pivotal figures, and influencing others as well, integrity and more. And tell us more about the book.
The title of it is really interesting, Mike. It's called Building Men, Character Lessons from Influencers. And the first two words of the title, Building Men, are not a product of my brain. They're a product of my son's brain. He was getting interviewed by a magazine, and they said, well, what do you do now? Like you built this company into a much larger organization. What do you do? He said, well, I used to build towers. I built guide towers. I built self-supporters. I built monopoles. I built glue lamp structures. Every kind of tower you built, I built. I can build them like nobody else. Says, but now I build men. I build men who build towers. And that really resonated with me. And as I looked out at my grandkids, I thought, wow, if I plopped over dead today, they're not even going to know me. So I started writing stories of the people who invested in me, starting with my grandpa, who was born in 1903, ending with my youngest grandchild, who now is going to be born in 2025.
Wow,
So,
my goodness. What, 1903 to 2025? Let's see, you got to do the math on it's like what, 122 years span?
exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Exactly. And, Mike, when I talk to groups, I say, if I look at that span of time, we're talking about 7 generations. And even though I'm a baby boomer, I got along with the silent generation. I got along with the greatest generation. I got along with other boomers. I got along with X's and Y's and Zulus and now Alphas. So I don't know that we have a good excuse for not communicating with one another. And so we train people a little bit on doing that.
And there's also the millennials as well too. And of course, you mentioned Gen Alpha, and now the new one came out is called Gen Beta. I think that's what, starting at what, 2020 or 21, 22, 23. I know Gen Alpha started in 2013. Now it's 2023. You're going to have was it Gen Beta now?
Yeah, something like that. And I tell you, the one thing that I found out is that if I can take the lessons from this book, which are all driven, every chapter is a story about a person or a small group of people, but every story is illustrated by a characteristic that comes in. So as I think about this, one of the chapters, I talk about my Uncle Earl. And I talk about him because this guy played football in the 1950s, late 40s, early 50s for the University of South Dakota. I mean,
Oh, wow.
This is a leather helmet, dude. This is a tough guy, offensive lineman.
And yes, football players were football players, not this protective stuff. It's like you put on leather, dress leather, you can go out and play like leather.
Heck yeah. And anyway, I talk in the book about him as being a person who's meek. And meekness is an attribute that we should all maybe strive a little for, because as you look at it, if you're going down the Autobahn in a Ferrari and you allow a Volkswagen to pass you, it doesn't mean you lost horsepower. It means you allowed someone else to get in front. And so that strength under control is a characteristic, one of the many that we talk about across those 20 chapters.
And of course, it also talks about basically unwavering loyalty, commander, inspiration, and of course, you cover meekness as well too. Most importantly, encouragement, teacher, belief, confidence, and also influence. And I think there's another one as well too. Most importantly, perseverance and being steadfast. I mean, I think that's a thing that seems to be somewhat lacking of steadfast. Men just quit, first step, first round, everything like that. Being steadfast is the most important. We need to be reminded, why does it need to be steadfast and what does it mean?
Well, number one, being steadfast is a character trait. It's one that says, if I'm going to look and do and follow the right thing, then I have to do that repeatedly and incrementally, always moving in the right direction. And the person in that chapter is my son-in-law, Ian. And he is, to me, a picture of Steadfast. Didn't have like this terrific, sterling, perfect youth that he could go back and look at. And he ran abreast of some trouble in his youth. But he turned that ship around, and he purposed in his heart that he was going to march in the right direction. And to this day, he's decided that he's not going to waver from moving in the right direction. And so
Hmm.
that is an inspiration, but steadfast is one of those character traits.
Hmm. And I think loyalty is also the most important thing. You're hearing stories about, they jump from this, jump to that, jump, everything like that. And you see in work, you don't see much loyalty. How can one person get loyalty? And maybe you can remind everybody what loyalty really is.
Well, again, I think most of these things, most of the characteristics that we talk about in the book are decisions that we make. And the decision to be loyal is made before you need to be loyal or before you're tempted to be disloyal. And so when I look at those characteristics in the book, I draw down stories of what loyalty looks like. And if you get this, you'll really enjoy some of these stories because they start in literally in Watertown, South Dakota, and move all the way to the West Coast across the course of my life and then back into the Rocky Mountains. So we had a lot of fun with the book, and the publisher is really excited about it. It comes out wherever you buy your books on June 3rd, just before Father's Day.
Oh, that's a great time to do it. And don't be afraid to buy the book, man. Don't be afraid. Conquer those fears. Get out there and buy the book and build other men and build yourself too, man.
Yeah, and it's not just for men and it's not just for grandpas. I mean, there's a lot of single moms out there that are looking for the attributes that they can help instill in the boys that they're having to raise by themselves. And so I think this is a product that hopefully can benefit people. That's really what I wrote it for. It's actually a letter to my grandkids, but I hope other people benefit from it as well.
And certainly did as well too. And with you being the Grampian, not only a care of that in your family life and culture and everything, you also have a podcast about being the Grampian.
Yeah. When we had our company, I used to go out in the shop and I'd know everybody's name, I'd know their wives, I'd usually know their kids' names. And I was down there one day and we were in the process of building a new shop, and I looked around and I thought, wow, I don't know that. I don't, and then I looked over and I'm like, who's that? There were people in our shop and I didn't actually know them. And I thought, I got to find a way to communicate better. And so we started doing a little internal podcast called Legacy Radio. And we just get the guys on the phone on their way to job site or whatever for 15 minutes once a week. And it was wonderful because I got to input into their lives. As a matter of fact, we used to do it live, and you especially know what live radio is, especially.
Oh yeah, 40 plus years, I've done this. I'm not afraid of this puppy, I'll tell you. I know most people are afraid. I've never been afraid of it since birth. It's like that's one of the traits. It's like,
Well, we did a live call in, and the folks said, "Hey, man, you can't do live. You're going to get employees that are going to ask you questions that you can't answer. You're going to be uncomfortable." And I'm like, you know what? There's nothing that I can't answer, nothing I'm going to be ashamed of. And lo and behold, one of the weeks somebody called in. They said, "Well, hey, Jim, I was just wondering how much you make." And I said, "Oh, that's an interesting question. How much do you make?" And he said, "I don't think I want to tell you." I said, "Me neither." So next question. Well, that turned into Ontivity Radio or On Radio, and then that turned into an entire industry podcast, and that turned into I wanted to continue it. So when my grandson named me Grampion, we started the Grampion, and we're a year and a half in. We got 5,000 subscribers, and we're just like growing an inch at a time.
oh my gosh, you cover just about everything: business, culture, politics, aviation, sports, faith. And what else do you cover? It's
You
like I'm
know,
scratching my head like what else is there?
the stories that we do on the Grampian, what we really do is we try and draw people in, and it's Grandpa Chats with Champions. And so when Grandpa Chats with Champions, often people want to hear about that dopamine moment where you won the Super Bowl or something like that. But if you talk to those people who've actually accomplished at that high of a level, that's not what they remember. What they remember is the difficulties and the practices and the extra work they did to get where they've gotten. And so, and the relationships that they've built along the way. So Grandpa Chats with Champions, or the Grampion, is just an opportunity to connect with someone who can encourage you to be in for the long haul, to fight the good fight until you do get that championship, because it might not be a first place trophy or something like that, but the price you pay to get there is really the test of a champion.
And certainly priceless indeed, they say.
Yeah, for sure.
You got that right. And we're going to find the Grampian at, and we're going to find Building Men and all your works at.
Okay, well you can find Building Men anywhere you buy books. It's the pre-sales are available at Barnes and Noble. And so I would appreciate anybody who wants to go to Barnes and Noble and look up Building Men by Jim Tracy, and you'll find it. The Grampian is on YouTube and Apple and all anywhere you get your podcasts. But also we have a website where I do a blog and I do some other fun stuff called The Grampion, GRAMPION.com.
We will certainly check that out as well. That is not just a breakfast of champions, it's for champions overall, even Grampians too.
Yeah.
So you got that right. So we're here with the amazing multi-talented Jim Tracy of Building Men and the Grampian podcast here on the Mike Wagner Show. Jim, just a few more things. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Well, I have really taken into to helping people with their businesses, and that's really brought me into a place where I can actually go in, and I do a lot of speaking to corporate entities to help them build their culture. And so everybody says, well, what does that look like? Well, here's what it looks like. If we can teach people to take care of people, and they look at their organizations not as this legal entity, but as these groups of people who actually want to get along. One of the things that I do when I talk to corporate groups is I say, all right, everybody who came to work today and thought, I'm just convinced I'm going to try and do a crappy job at work today. Everybody who thought that, I want you to raise your hand. And guess what? Nobody raises their hand. So let's start from a place where we think everybody kind of wanted to start the day doing at least a decent job. And then let's make sure that we're lifting the bar through encouragement and through positive responses. And then don't be afraid of a little friction. Friction's good. It sharpens us. And so when I teach and I coach, and I'm basically trying to take the things that I've learned over 40 years in management and help people apply them. And it's usually helping management, senior management, learn to be positive.
And I think that's a really good point as well, too. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Wow. Buy the book. There's 20 stories in there and they're equal, but I would say the first one would be my grandpa Brown. He founded a one-man clinic in Watertown, South Dakota that became a regional medical center for an entire community and beyond. And he's chapter one. That's called Unwavering. And here's a little 5'6", 5'7" man who determined that he was going to be the best and provide the best services. One of the things I quote is him. He who serves best profits most. And if you think about that, the wisdom behind that statement transcends a little doctor's office above the post office in Watertown. This man probably had as great an impact on me as anyone.
That is certainly amazing. I love that story right there. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Wow. There's a lot of stories about perseverance, and I think you brought that up. I think in today's world, we have a tendency to quit before we're done. And it doesn't matter, you talked about faith. Don't if you don't know of what your faith is going to be, then go look. You better start searching. And if you think that God or something put us on this planet and we're the top of the food chain, that can't be so. So you better go searching and trying. And I have found that the more I follow Jesus, the better off I am. And I would encourage people, best advice I ever gave out was go read the Bible. And if you say you already read it, go read it again.
And again and again and again and again.
There you go.
You got that right. We're here with the multi-talented Jim Tracy of Building Men and the Grampion podcast here on the Mike Wagner Show. Jim, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Glad to have you back. Again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase the book and check out the podcast?
All right. Thegrampion.com and thejimtracy.com if you want to hear me speak or you want me to work with your business. And go on Barnes & Noble's Building Men by Jim Tracy.
All right. We'll certainly check that out. Once again, Jim, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Laugh at that back. We shall best. And Jim, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time today, Mike.